Stuart, first of all, we're just on the eve of the new season. How are you feeling? How do you feel the team are, and are you happy where you are heading into the new campaign?
I think listen, I'm happy with the business that we've been able to do. I'm happy for the fact that we're out of the group within the cup, which can always be a bit of banana skin, and it came close to that for us. If I'm being brutally honest, it was a situation where we expected and wanted a better performance last Sunday. I think the fact that you're playing against one of the top championship sides, the fact the game's televised, you're hoping and expecting a better performance. But listen, I'm relatively happy with where I am. But I think my reaction after the game is always one, in accepting responsibility for a poor performance, but two, I keep talking to the players about this kind of hunger in paradise. Even though you're through in a cup competition, it's fair expectation that you think you can play and perform better. So I think that's a good motivation, and I think always with the league it brings a different mindset and it brings a different feel. We started the league campaign very well last season, and that's quite clearly our goal again this year.
You say you're happy with the business you've done so far. Finally got Stamatelopoulos over the line.
Well said.
Thank you. I was practicing there for 5 minutes. How does it feel to get him over the line, and how's he been since he arrived?
It's good. He's a little bit behind. He's obviously different timescales. We find that quite a bit with lads coming up from England as well. A bit of travel, becoming a father for the first time, so there's a number of different things in there. But we're obviously still sitting waiting for international clearance and a work permit just now, so we just need to wait and see how that goes over the next 2 days, as to what potentially his involvement could be on Saturday, if at all. But yeah, he's slightly behind with his fitness levels. We knew that. He's done some runs himself. He's when he was over in Australia, just trying to see if he can make up that wee bit of ground. But I'm confident he's a fit lad, and he's someone that's played a lot of football last season, so I don't think it'll be a great fight to get him up to speed.
Obviously, a couple of seasons ago you lost Kevin Van Veen, scored so many goals for you, and that was the question last time we were asking you, how do you replace those goals? You did it with Theo Bair. He's now gone. Can he be the man to replace Bair's goals as Bair did with Van Veen?
I think it's the same answer as it was last summer, and I think there was a few question marks as to how we would do that. We have to spread it. It's as simple as that. This thought process of one player comes in and shoulders the burden of having to score all the goals. For any team to be successful, that can't just be one player. It can't just be one unit of your team. We're going to have to get goals from set plays. As I said this last season, I distinctly remember saying it. We're going to have to get it from midfield, and without question, you're always going to want it from your forward players, your strikers, of which we've got a few in the building just now, and they are all going to have to contribute. But again, I go back to it that new or existing players at this football club, that simple basis of expectation, we must get a contribution from everybody. For us to carry 2, 3, 4, 5 players that almost kind of go through the motions and really don't take part is never going to be a good recipe. And again, that's not a finger pointing exercise. That's just something that the players have heard for the get-go. I believe this football club gives you a real good foundation and a very good league to go and profile yourself at a high level within the game. So we just speak about not missing opportunities. Sometimes you can do that through goal scoring, but one of the aspects that we want to improve is not just the goal scoring, because as I've said it numerous times, we scored goals last season, we scored goals the season before that. We want to go and make sure that we tighten up our back line, but not just our back unit and our entire team, about how we function when we don't have the ball and we don't concede cheap goals, and just trying to put all the aspects together to try and find a little bit more consistency than maybe what we had last year, where there was some good spells, but there was obviously some poor spells within that as well. So how do you rectify it? How do you change it? You need all aspects sort of functioning.
You talked about your reaction at full time on Sunday. Do you feel like you've seen a positive reaction from your players in training this week?
Yeah. Again, I'm not making any sort of big drama about this, about me being angry after a game of football. I was just asked the question there in another interview, what do you enjoy most about Scottish football? And my answer was the passion, the emotion. I'm a passionate person. I can be an emotional person. You try and remove yourself from that at times, but let's not forget this simple aspect, that if you're not happy with something and you don't like something, you don't agree with something, you're allowed to speak, you're allowed to say what you feel. feel. You know, that doesn't need to be descending into an argument or a big news story or masses on social media off the back of it. There's been plenty of managers and plenty of players haven't been happy after a game of football. I wasn't on Sunday. I said that to the players, but I also said it to the media afterwards. So whether people think I only say that to one group, where I think it's going to be easier, the players heard that first. They accepted it. They weren't particularly happy with their performance on Sunday, which I always think gives you an opportunity to move forward as well. If you sit there with burdens and thought processes and grievances and you don't speak your mind, then that'll just sit and fester. So that's where I was on Sunday. I believe I've seen a decent reaction for the players to this point, but always the acid test is how do you perform in the next game. You know, you can train as well as you want. I thought we trained really well in the lead up to Partick Thistle, so that's not always an exacting science. But again, I'm very, very old school in that you earn your right to play on a Saturday or a Sunday by what you do during the week, and I'll never change from that.
And Ross County's a team you know quite well. What are you expecting from them this weekend?
I think we know a lot of their players. They look as if they've made quite a few signings, some interesting ones, some guys that look as if they'll bring some good quality to their team. You know, understand kind of how they'll play. We've certainly got a reasonable reflection of that over the last 4 League Cup games. So I think in recent times we've got an excellent record against them. I think we've scored a lot of goals against them over the last 18 months or so in my time here. I think maybe 6 or so games against them, and the record's good. The goals scored is good, but it's a new season. It's fresh challenges. So how much emphasis do I put on last season or the season before? And those head-to-heads, not an awful lot, to be honest with you. Don obviously comes in, he's permanent manager, so the players have a clarity on that. So I would imagine it's going to be a real tough game for us. I think it's going to be a difficult game with a team that carries a threat at the top end of the park, and we're going to have to be at our absolute best to get something out of this game. But I'll say that to you for the 37 games that come after that as well. I don't think anybody gets a point in this league without being good.
Stuart, do you enjoy this part of the season when everything's fresh? You just set in fresh challenges, everyone's rejuvenated and starting afresh, ready to go? Yeah, I do, but I think it's becoming more and more obscure that way, because the reason why I say it is you just feel as if one season almost rolls to the next, which probably for somebody like myself that's obsessed with football and been on it 24/7, then that's alright. But you kind of feel like that league campaign's finished, we've went into the Euros. Yes, I've not directly had an involvement in that, but for you guys, you know, there's just been football 24/7 almost every single day. But listen, that's what the public want. That's what the football supporter wants. That's what we relish being involved in. So I think anybody that's not coming to this first game of the season with a real good appetite for the game in this country is in the wrong industry, is what I would say. I'm certainly looking forward to it. I see a group of players that look as if they're relishing the challenge this week, and you just want to get off to a good start. Of course you do, but you know, the first game, the first 5 games or whatever doesn't define your season. What I'm looking more closely at is just to try and find that level of consistency that I spoke about earlier. But us playing at home against Ross County on the first day, I think it's something to look forward to.
Stuart, how do you view your goalkeeping situation heading into the season by Aston and Christian playing 2 games each in the League Cup? Yeah, it was always my view. What I was trying to do was bring in 2 number ones to the football club. Obviously Aston was already here and has had to be very patient for opportunity, and Christian comes in with good pedigree, real good potential. So I think very simply it just gives me a little bit of a headache as to who starts in that first game. But I kind of that's what I was after, that's what I was looking for. Been really transparent with both lads as well, that they get the 2 games in the League Cup to go and showcase what they can do. I believe both have acquitted themselves really well, and it just becomes a difficult decision. But I want that in every single position. I think if we're doing that in every single position, you've got people operating at a real good level. How did the guys who played on Tuesday in the SPFL Trust Trophy, senior guys wise, come through it, Paul McGinn? No, there was no injuries. That was Paul's first 60 minutes over pre-season. We were allocating him 60 minutes. Real difficult ask just to go in and play 90 straight off the bat. Only with a couple of sessions under his belt as well, Paul. Marvin was desperately needing game time because he's 2 weeks behind the rest of the group as well. And then Tom Sparrow was the other one that had missed, I think, almost a couple of weeks there as well. So we're just trying to top up. There's probably 1 or 2 others that I would have put into the game as well, but obviously
obviously with the age restriction, then we were just trying to target the ones we felt could get that 60 minutes or so. So yes, it's good, but obviously we still need more in the tank for the likes of Paul and Marvin and Tom, just to get them right up to full speed.
We've obviously seen Ewan Wilson and Dylan Wells play quite a lot in the League Cup as well. Has that always been the plan, to get them into the first team this season, or did you have loans in mind for them? Have they changed your kind of mind as well about that as well?
I think with them all, what we'd said was, this sort of development group, as I call them, what we'd said to them all was, on day one in pre-season you've got an opportunity to try and get into a first team. I was giving them that chance, that platform. Obviously I've got a real understanding of what they are and who they are as lads and what they can bring forward, but I always think that young players especially have a real good chance to emerge if you've taken care of yourself over the summer, if you're working really hard and you hit the ground running. And I think it's safe to say that several of the lads have done that. They've taken their opportunity well. You mentioned Ewan Wilson, you mentioned Dylan, but several other lads have done pretty well within that as well and had some okay minutes. But I will be putting some of them out on loan, there's no question of that. Once we start to get a few players back from injury, then I don't want them sitting here potentially not being on the bench, or just sitting on the bench and not getting an opportunity. But that's not reflective of where I see them or what I think they are. It's just that trying to gain as much experience as possible. So in short, we've got several options for some of these lads, some of which we may take up and others we might not. But I think if I especially target Ewan with the minutes that he's had and what he's done over pre-season, he's really caught our eye, and he's someone that's finding himself playing at a real good level, and I think someone that has a real bright future at the football club.
Obviously you want to be going to your first league game this season with a pretty much full squad. It's been one of those where a lot of the injuries have come in the midfield as well. How difficult is that to kind of manage as well?
It's difficult because obviously the idea that I start with, and you sit with your blue sky thinking and you map out where players are going to play and what jobs are going to do for your team. Well, even this early, we've had to try and be creative with that. I'm going to have to try and probably be creative with that again on Saturday. Just as I say, what I need to do is try and pick 11 fit players and 11 guys that have got a decent expectation that they can play 90 minutes, and then you need to start working your way back from that if you want to make tactical changes, if you want to make changes to freshen up your team and put more energy into it. So that's kind of where I'm going to have to start. That's what I'm going to have to look at. I always talk about trying to put square pegs in square holes. You want to make sure that you line that up, that people are comfortable where they're playing on the pitch. But we've not had our troubles to seek. I think that's fair to say. That's not an excuse, far from it, because we've got enough players, we've got a squad here, but with the injuries, with players coming in late, people trying to get up to speed, players missing a bit of football and then now trying to catch up, then obviously it creates one or two dilemmas. My job is to go and make sure that I can get that as fluid as I possibly can, as easy for the players to understand and grasp as we possibly can, and then try and build on it. I would love to be sitting with that in a better place. I would love to be sitting with that a week or two ahead of where we are, but again, that's a hand we're dealt, so we have to go and make absolute best of it, and we'll certainly not be shirking the challenge, and we'll be making sure that we're as best placed we possibly can be for what's going to be a hard game on Saturday.
Just one final question. Obviously there was a bit of an issue with Partick Thistle and the new comment system, not being able to bring on Nico Diak as well. Is it you obviously have kind of empathy with Thistle, looking on from the sidelines to what was a bit of a
yeah, I
situation?
actually missed that part of it. I actually missed it. I know Chris and I know Paul, and I spoke to them after the game, and as we do, we'll sit and have an open and honest conversation. I actually caught them in the tunnel right after the game, speaking to the officials, and I'd asked what the problem was. I missed the bit, as I say, where they were debating whether they could bring on Diak, I think as it was. But then when I start to get a picture after, I understand why the mistake was happened or occurred. And the reason why I say that was we'll always write down the starting 11 and the subs from the opposition, so that we've got something set in front of the players that we discuss as we're building up to the game. And we didn't have Diak's name on the subs list. I spoke about this after the game. We didn't have Diak's name on the subs list, and I questioned our analyst who's shouting out the names to me, because I knew that he's always on the bench. He's generally not a starter for them, but I knew that he'd always kind of been on the bench, and I asked him why he wasn't there, and then scrolled down and you could see that his name, similarly, I think it was possibly Mark Ferry, was below the list of subs, but is actually on the team line. So whatever way, human error, whether it be the new system and the teething problems that we have with a new system, I do sympathise with him, of course I do, but that's the kind of thing that we must have ironed out, obviously, for going into the new campaign. We had one, I think it was Montrose as well. I think we had a situation with Montrose where a player wasn't listed. We asked the officials and they said that he was listed, so there's quite clearly one or two issues that need to be resolved before we start, because those type of things, whether subs can impact games or make a change in games, we'll never know. You know, I could sit here and debate that it wouldn't have made a difference in the game, but we don't know. But I don't think a manager should ever be put in a position where he's sort of debating. And I know through speaking to Chris, I think it was almost, well, you can put him on if you want. I don't know if that was kind of the conversation, and certainly from what Chris said to me is, you're never going to put someone on the park that you're not sure whether he's listed amongst the subs, and I totally get that as well. I understand that, but I don't think managers should be put in that position, nor do I think, just probably to finish on it, that managers should ever have to be in a position where officials or whatever are telling them, go and check your team line on a phone or something like that, because I'll be honest with you, that's a manager's last thought in his head. You're trying to come up with a change, you're trying to come up with a thing that will make a difference, whilst there's 15 other things happening on a pitch that you're trying to help control as much as you can. I don't think you're going to start scrolling through a phone and see whether someone's name's listed on a team line.